Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 10.
674 days after he was appointed special counsel to examine Russian interference in the 2016 election, tonight Robert Mueller has completed his investigation and submitted his report. We'll have more on what that means coming up on Valley News Live at 10. But first, the Bison's hard-fought battle over the Duke Blue Devils has come to an end. North Dakota State played Duke tough for the first half, but the Blue Devils proved why they are the #1 overall seed with a blistering second half performance, winning 85-62. Duke advances to the NCAA tournament second round. NDSU ends the season with a 19-16 record. Here in Fargo, there were mixed emotions among Bison fans after that game. Some expressed frustration at the blowout loss to Duke. Others told Valley News Live NDSU tried its best against top-ranked Duke. Fans outside the Buffalo Wild Wings in Fargo have plenty to say, including a Duke fan.
It was a pretty good game. The first half went pretty good. They kind of lost it in the second half, but
to compete with Duke for a half, I mean, you can't ask much more of this team. And
I hope they win the whole tournament.
Stick around later on Valley News Live. You'll be hearing live from sports director Beth Houle as she has all the highlights from South Carolina. And it's a pivotal moment in a years-long national drama that has lasted for nearly the entire Trump presidency. Now it's in the hands of the Attorney General William Barr to determine how much of Robert Mueller's findings that Congress and the rest of the country will see and what will remain secret. One chapter in this long saga is over, and now another begins. Justice correspondent Pete Williams has the latest.
22 months after he was appointed to find out whether anyone in the Trump campaign helped the Russians meddle in the election, tonight Robert Mueller has just turned in the highly anticipated report of his investigation, signaling the end of his work as special counsel. The Justice Department notified the chairman and ranking members of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees, saying simply, Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III has concluded his investigation. The letter said Congress would be notified as early as this weekend about the main points of Mueller's work. Under the rules governing the special counsel, Mueller submitted his confidential report directly to the Attorney General, William Barr. And now the huge question, how much of it will he reveal given the keen interest from Congress and the public? The rules call for Mueller to issue a bare-bones report, summarizing the cases he took to court and explaining which ones he declined to prosecute. Barr said at his confirmation hearing that he understands the intense interest in what Mueller found.
I am going to make as much information available as I can, consistent with the rules and regulations that are part of the special counsel regulations.
In fact, those rules don't call for making the report public at all. They say only that the Attorney General should notify Congress if he blocked anything the special counsel wanted to do. Democrats in Congress say they'll insist on seeing the whole thing.
This is of too great a consequence to the country to be swept under the rug. And so we will use whatever compulsion we can and must to make sure that the public gets the full story.
Democrats say they might also try to force Mueller himself to testify about what his investigation concluded. Though Mueller brought charges against 6 people connected to the Trump campaign, none of them were accused of helping Russia meddle in the election. Among the big questions now, did Mueller reach any conclusions about the nature of Mr. Trump's business connections with the Russians? Will the report say anything about whether the firing of James Comey as FBI director amounted to obstruction of justice? President Trump told Lester that he fired Comey because of the Russian meddling investigation.
When I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story.
Will Mueller's report say anything about Mr. Trump's involvement in the payment of hush money to 2 women who claimed they had affairs with him, something he has denied? And what will the report say about investigations that will continue into, for example, whether the Trump Inaugural Committee
preserve, protect, and defend
illegally accepted foreign contributions?
All Congress is going to get for now is who was prosecuted and why. We now know he indicted 34 people and perhaps some limited information on who else was investigated. Barr says in his letter he will talk with Mueller and the Deputy Attorney General to see what else from the report can be made public and given to Congress. He says simply he's committed to as much transparency as possible. Fire crews are battling a large fire near the construction site of the new Trinity Hospital complex in Minot. The fire department there says a series of propane tanks near the construction site caught fire. They say the fire is contained, but crews are letting it burn. At this time, officials say there are no injuries. Nearly a dozen cars vandalized across Cass County, North Dakota. And now deputies are investigating and asking for your help tracking down the culprits. The Cass County Sheriff's Department says between March 15th and the 18th, there were 5 cars through Horace, Harwood, and Argusville that were damaged. The city of Fargo also reported multiple car windows being broken during that same time period. Officials are asking for your help in reporting any suspicious activity or suspicious vehicles in your communities. If you have any information about a possible suspect, you're urged to call police. Police are still looking for a Moorhead teenager who's been missing for over 2 months now. Timonique Davis was last seen on January 20th in Moorhead. She's black, has black hair and brown eyes. She's described as 5'6", 189 pounds, and may be in need of medication. An official with the Moorhead Police Department tells us they are considering her a possible runaway at this time and are actively searching for her. Anyone with information about Davis is urged to call police. And it's time to take a look at this week's Valley's Most Wanted. 18-year-old John Castillo Jr. is wanted out of Cass County for burglary and theft of property. You're urged to call your local law enforcement if you have any information on Castillo. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum has signed a bill that requires abortion providers to tell women undergoing drug-induced abortions that it's possible they could still have a live birth if they change their mind. Opponents claim there is no medically accepted evidence that a drug-induced abortion can be interrupted. Burgum's approval of the bill was the first time in 6 years North Dakota has approved such legislation after several anti-abortion laws were struck down in the courts. And the North Dakota Senate has endorsed several proposed changes to the state's medical marijuana law. They include adding autism spectrum disorders to the list of qualifying medical conditions and adding physician assistants to the list of health professionals who can certify patients. Senators also voted in favor of removing a line on the certification form, making a doctor say whether a patient would get a therapeutic benefit to having marijuana. It also would allow vets who get health care from the VA to apply. The law updates are not yet final. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz says his revised state budget proposal looks to the future while accounting for the recent economic forecast. Today at the state capitol, Walz says the revised budget line is now $562 million compared to the original bottom line of $789 million. Altogether, the changes include reductions in proposed new spending of $131 million, tax changes that would bring in an additional $65 million, and new spending that would go mostly to higher education. Devastation has struck Nebraska following historic flooding in the state. If you want to help those impacted by the flooding in Nebraska, now is your chance to do it. Valley News Live is teaming up with our Gray sister stations throughout the state in partnership with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and Red Cross, who is holding a drive for flood relief efforts. Phone bank volunteers will take donations until 11 tonight. The number to call is 1-844-278-8555. You can find more information by visiting valleynewslive.com and clicking on this story. Some area residents spent their night knocking down bowling pins for a good cause. An annual fundraiser for Big Brothers Big Sisters happened at West Acres Bowl tonight. It's called Bowl for Kids' Sake. And the event raises funds to pay for the cost that comes with matching adults with kids. Those costs include doing background checks and paying for staff. An organizer tells us they hope to raise $100,000 for the effort of helping kids.
There's so many kids out there that have potential that just could be unlocked if they had one more caring adult in their life. And so that's really our goal. We want to match caring adults with kids who need them in their lives.
For those who couldn't make it out tonight, there's another chance to help Big Brothers Big Sisters. They'll be bowling again next week at West Acres Bowl, so make sure to call them ahead of time to set up a team.